After a day of failed job hunting, the single mother and her child were completely exhausted. As they trudged along in silent hunger, the smell of hot, freshly cooked food suddenly drifted out from a luxurious restaurant by the roadside. In a moment of distraction, the girl let go of her mother's hand, slipped inside, and whispered to a well-dressed man, "Sir, may I have some food?" The mother froze. She rushed forward, bent deeply in apology, humiliated and ashamed. But the man did not get angry. He remained silent, his gaze settling on the old violin slung over the woman's shoulder, and then slowly spoke a single sentence, one that would send their fate down a completely different path. The smell hit Sarah first. It came drifting through the warm evening air like a whisper, like a promise, like something she could not afford. Grilled steak and rosemary, fresh bread and butter, the kind of food she used to eat in another life, before everything fell apart. She tightened her grip on Lily's hand and walked faster. They had been walking for hours. 11 stores, 11 rejections, 11 polite smiles that all meant the same thing. "We are not hiring. We do not have openings. You can leave your resume and we will contact you." But they never contacted. They never did. Around 2 o'clock, Lily had stopped walking altogether. Sarah had carried her for 6 blocks, the violin case banging against her hip, her arms screaming with the effort. They had rested on a park bench for an hour while Lily slept against her shoulder. Then they had walked again. Then rested again. Then walked. Sarah's feet ached in her worn sneakers. Her shoulders burned from carrying the old leather case all day. The violin inside was the only thing she had not sold. She had sold everything else. The jewelry her mother left her. The winter coat she needed. The small television that Lily used to watch cartoons on. Everything had gone, piece by piece, to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads for one more week, but not the violin. The violin was different. Her grandmother had given it to her when she was 7 years old, pressing it into her small hands with tears in her eyes. She had played it through high school, through college on a full scholarship, through her years in the symphony. She had played it at her wedding, the one that did not last. She had played it when Lily was born, soft lullabies in the hospital room while her daughter slept against her chest. 3 different pawn shops had offered her money for it. Good money, enough to pay rent for 2 months. Each time she had walked away. Each time Lily had asked why, and Sarah had said, "Because some things are worth more than money, baby." It was the last piece of who she used to be. The last proof that she had once been someone, a musician, an artist, a woman with a future, and now she carried it everywhere. Even when her arms ached, even when her back screamed for relief, even when the practical voice in her head whispered that selling it would solve so many problems. Because letting go of it would mean letting go of hope. And she was not ready for that. Not yet. Lily dragged beside her now, her small hand sweaty and limp. The girl was 6 years old, with warm brown skin like her mother's and thick curly hair that Sarah had braided that morning but was now coming loose. Her bright eyes, the color of dark honey, had slowly dimmed throughout the day. She had stopped asking questions around noon. She had stopped complaining around 2. Now she stumbled more than walked, her legs shaking with exhaustion, trusting her mother to keep her upright. Sarah did not feel safe anywhere. They passed the restaurant without meaning to. It was one of those places with a terrace that spilled out onto the sidewalk, separated from the street by a low iron railing and potted plants the size of small trees, white tablecloths, crystal glasses catching the last of the sunset, waiters in black vests moving silently between tables like shadows. The kind of place where a single appetizer cost more than Sarah's entire weekly budget. Sarah looked away. Places like this were not for people like her. Not anymore. Maybe never again. But Lily had stopped walking. "Mama." Her voice was small, barely a whisper. "Mama, it smells so good." Sarah tugged her hand gently. "Come on, sweetie. We need to get home." But Lily did not move. Her bright eyes were fixed on something beyond the railing. Her nose was lifted slightly, breathing in the aroma of food she had not eaten all day. Her small body was trembling, not from cold but from hunger so deep it had become a physical ache. Sarah had given her half a sandwich at noon. That was 8 hours ago. 8 hours of walking. 8 hours of rejection. 8 hours of watching her daughter grow quieter and smaller and more fragile. "Lily," she said again, her voice cracking. "Come on." But the girl was already slipping her hand free. already stepping toward the railing, already moving toward the smell of steak and butter and everything they could not have. Sarah reached for her too late. Lily ducked under the railing before Sarah could stop her. She was small enough to fit through the gap between the iron bars and the potted plants. She moved like a ghost, like a shadow, like a hungry child following her nose toward salvation. Sarah's heart stopped. Lily, a security guard near the entrance, noticed the movement. He was a large man in a dark suit, and he started walking toward Lily with purpose. But the girl was fast weaving between tables and she reached the edge of the terrace before he could intercept her. There was a man sitting alone near the edge of the terrace. He was maybe 40, maybe a little younger. His dark hair was graying at the temples, giving him a distinguished look that spoke of experience rather than age. His suit was simple but perfectly cut, the kind of suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. No tie. He had a plate of steak in front of him, barely touched, and a glass of red wine that caught the fading light like liquid rubies. He was not looking at his food. He was looking out at the street with an expression that was neither sad nor happy, just empty. Like someone who had everything and wanted nothing. Like someone who had climbed every mountain and found nothing at the top but more emptiness. Lily stopped at his table just as the security guard reached her. The man looked down. For a moment nobody moved. The child and the stranger just looked at each other. Lily with her braids coming undone and her rumpled dress and her bright eyes full of longing. The man with his expensive clothes and his untouched steak and his face full of nothing. Then Lily spoke. "That smells really good," she said. Her voice was small and tired, cracking slightly on the last word. She swayed on her feet, one hand gripping the edge of the table to steady herself. "Are you going to eat all of it?" Sarah wanted to die. Right there on the sidewalk, she wanted the earth to open up and swallow her whole. She was already ducking under the railing, already pushing past tables, already reaching for her daughter with trembling hands. "I am so sorry," she said, grabbing Lily's arm. She was out of breath. Her face was burning with shame, so hot it felt like fire. "I am so sorry, sir. She does not know better. She is just hungry. We are leaving right now." The man looked at Sarah. His eyes were dark, attentive, taking in her worn clothes and her tired face and the violin case on her shoulder. He did not seem surprised. He did not seem annoyed. He just looked at her the way someone looks at a puzzle they cannot quite solve. "She is hungry," he repeated. It was not a question, it was a statement of fact, spoken with a calm that seemed almost out of place. Sarah's throat tightened. "Yes. She has not eaten since noon. I am sorry. We will go." She was pulling Lily away, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears, when the restaurant manager appeared. The security guard was right behind him, one hand already reaching for Sarah's arm. "Excuse me," the manager said, stepping between Sarah and the terrace. His voice was polite but cold, the kind of voice that could refuse you service while making it sound like a favor. His name tag said Robert, but everything about him said trouble. "This is a private dining area. I am going to have to ask you to leave immediately." "We are leaving," Sarah said quickly. "I apologize for the disturbance." The security guard's hand closed around her elbow, not roughly but firmly. A reminder of who belonged here and who did not. "See that you do," the manager said. The security guard began guiding Sarah toward the railing. "We have a certain clientele here. We cannot have people just wandering in off the street." Sarah felt the words like a slap. "People like you," that was what he meant. Poor people, desperate people, people who did not belong in places with white tablecloths and crystal glasses and wine that cost more than a week's groceries. She was turning to go, her face burning, her heart pounding, her dignity in tatters when the man at the table spoke. "Wait." Everyone stopped. The manager, the security guard, Sarah, even Lily, who had been clinging to her mother's leg with both hands. The man set down his knife and fork with deliberate care. He looked at the manager with an expression that was calm but somehow dangerous, like still water hiding a powerful current. The security guard released Sarah's arm immediately. He recognized the man. Everyone who worked here recognized him. Grant Mitchell was not just a regular customer. He was one of the original investors who had helped open this restaurant 15 years ago. His name was on the founding plaque by the entrance. His money had paid for the renovations 3 years back. "Bring a menu," Grant said. "And 2 more chairs." The manager blinked. His professional smile faltered for just a moment. "Sir, I do not think that is appropriate. These people are clearly not." Grant's voice went quiet. The kind of quiet that made people lean in to listen. The kind of quiet that carried more weight than any shout. "I have been eating at this restaurant for 12 years. Robert, you have been managing this place for the last 5 of them, and in all that time I have never once told you how to run your establishment. But I am telling you now. Bring a menu, 2 chairs, and do it quickly." The manager opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the security guard who had already stepped back, his hands folded in front of him. Then he looked at Sarah with something like resentment burning in his eyes. Finally he nodded once sharply and disappeared inside. Sarah stood there frozen. She did not know what to do. She did not know what to say. Her legs felt weak. Her head was spinning. The man gestured to the empty space across from him. "Please, sit down." "I cannot," Sarah said. Her voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. "I cannot pay for this. I did not ask you to. I do not take charity." The words came out harder than she intended, but she meant them. She had accepted a lot of things in the past year. She had accepted losing her job when the symphony cut its budget. She had accepted losing her apartment when she could no longer make rent. She had accepted sleeping on friends' couches and eating at soup kitchens and walking for miles to save bus fare. But she had not accepted charity. Not yet. Not ever. She still had that much. She still had her pride, even if she had nothing else. The man looked at her, really looked. His dark eyes seemed to see past her worn clothes and her tired face and her burning cheeks. He seemed to see something else. Something deeper. Something she had not shown anyone in a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "No charity. What can you offer?" Sarah blinked. "What? You said you do not take charity." He leaned back in his chair, his posture relaxed but his attention sharp. "So offer me something. A trade, a service. Something that makes this a transaction instead of a handout." Sarah's mind raced. She had nothing. She had less than nothing. All she had was $3 in her pocket and a daughter who was so hungry she had wandered into a fancy restaurant to beg for food from strangers. Then she remembered the weight on her shoulder. The violin. She had carried it all day. She had carried it every day since she lost everything. It was the one thing she could not sell. The one thing she could not give up. Because music was all she had left. Music was the only thing that still felt like herself. She looked at the man, at his calm face, at his waiting eyes. "I can play," she said. "Play the violin." She touched the worn leather case on her shoulder, feeling the familiar contours beneath her fingers. "I used to play professionally, in the symphony. Before everything, I could play for you, for your dinner. Like the musicians who play in restaurants." She paused, gathering courage. "It would not be charity then. It would be a trade. Music for food. That is fair. That is honest." The man raised an eyebrow. For a long moment he said nothing. Sarah felt her heart pounding in her chest, felt the weight of his gaze, felt the fragile hope threatening to shatter. Then he nodded. "All right," he said. "Play for your supper." The manager returned then with 2 chairs and a menu, his face carefully blank but his eyes still resentful. Sarah guided Lily into one of the chairs. The girl looked confused but too tired and too hungry to ask questions. She just sat there, her small legs swinging beneath the table, her bright eyes still fixed on the man's steak. Sarah set down the leather case and opened it with trembling hands. Inside was the violin her grandmother had given her nearly 30 years ago. It was old, beautiful. The wood was dark and warm from decades of handling, polished smooth by countless hours of practice and performance. The strings were new because Sarah always found money for new strings, even when she could not find money for food. She lifted the violin to her shoulder. The weight of it was familiar, comforting, like coming home after a long journey. She closed her eyes and she played. The first notes rose into the evening air like birds taking flight. It was a melody from another time, another life, something classical, something old, Pachelbel, maybe, or Bach. The sound was rich and full with a sadness underneath that made the heart ache and the soul stir. Around them, conversation stopped. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Even the waiters stood still, their careful professionalism melting into something like wonder. Sarah played with her eyes closed. She played the way someone plays when music is the only thing they have left, when everything else has been stripped away, and this is the one truth that remains. When the world has taken everything but cannot take this. She had played in concert halls once. She had played for audiences of thousands, their applause washing over her like waves. She had played for critics and conductors and people who thought they knew everything about music. But she had never played like this. She played for her daughter. For the hunger in Lily's eyes, for the shame of asking strangers for food, for the dignity she was trying so hard to hold on to with both hands. She played for herself, for the woman she used to be, for the life she used to have, for the dreams that had shattered one by one until only this was left: a violin, a child, a hope that refused to die no matter how many times life tried to kill it. The music built and built, it rose towards something beautiful, something transcendent, then it softened, slowed, faded into silence like the last light of day. When Sarah opened her eyes, they were wet. The terrace was completely still. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the traffic on the street seemed to have paused, as if the whole world had stopped to listen. The man was looking at her with an expression she could not read. It was not pity, it was not judgment, it was something else entirely, something that made her want to look away and keep looking at the same time. Then he spoke. "Order whatever you like," he said. "Both of you. You have more than earned it." Sarah lowered her violin. She looked at him, at his dark eyes, at his calm face, at the way he waited, patient and unhurried, as if he had all the time in the world. "Thank you," she said. It came out as a whisper, but she meant it with everything she had. The waiter appeared with menus. Lily grabbed hers with both hands, her eyes going wide at the pictures of food she had only dreamed about. "Can I have the macaroni and cheese, Mama? Please?" Sarah looked at the man. He nodded, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Yes, sweetie, you can have anything you want." They ordered. Lily got her macaroni and cheese, the fancy kind with 3 different cheeses and breadcrumbs on top. Sarah got the salmon because the man insisted, and because she had not eaten real fish in nearly a year. He ordered another steak for himself, even though his first one was barely touched. The food came quickly. Lily attacked her plate with the kind of focus only a hungry child can have. She ate too fast at first, then slowed down as her stomach began to fill. Sarah cut smaller pieces for her, reminded her to chew, tried not to eat too much of her own plate even though she was just as hungry. The man watched them. It was not an intrusive observation, more like someone trying to understand something he had never seen before, something that did not fit into the world he knew. Lily stopped eating for a moment and wiped her mouth with the napkin the way her mother had taught her. "I draw," she announced suddenly. The man raised an eyebrow. "Do you?" "I draw a lot. Flowers and cats and houses with chimneys. My mom says I draw well." "Your mother sounds like a smart woman." "She is." Lily nodded seriously, with all the certainty of a 6-year-old. "She plays the violin real good too. Did you hear?" "I heard. It was beautiful, right?" The man's lips twitched, something that might have been a smile, the first real expression Sarah had seen on his face. It was beautiful. Sarah felt her face flush. She looked down at her plate. The salmon was delicious, the best thing she had eaten in months, but she could barely taste it. She was too aware of the man across from her, of his quiet attention, of the way he listened when Lily talked, really listened, not just waiting for his turn to speak. "What is your name?" Lily asked him suddenly. "Grant." "That is a funny name." "Is it?" "Kind of, but I like it." Lily went back to her macaroni. "I am Lily, and this is my mom, Sarah." "Nice to meet you, Lily." "Nice to meet you, Sarah." Sarah looked up. He was looking at her, not at Lily, at her. "Nice to meet you too," she said. The dinner continued. Lily talked about everything and nothing. Her drawings, her school, her favorite teacher who let her draw on the back of worksheets. Grant listened with genuine attention, asking questions at the right moments, nodding when she made important points. Sarah ate slowly. She watched her daughter come alive again, watched the color return to her brown cheeks, watched the brightness come back to her eyes, watched her become the happy, chattering little girl she used to be before hunger and worry had dimmed her light. This is what Lily needed. food, warmth, someone who listened. It was such a simple thing, and yet it had been so hard to find. When the plates were cleared, Sarah felt something shift inside her. The relief of a full stomach brought with it other feelings, things she had been holding back all day, all week, all year, things she had buried so deep, she had almost forgotten they were there. She looked at her hands, at the calluses on her fingertips from the violin, at the lines that had appeared over the past months, at the way her wedding ring used to sit, back when she had a wedding ring, back when she had a husband, back when she had a life. "I am unemployed," she said suddenly. The words came out before she could stop them. Grant stopped reaching for his wine glass and looked at her, his full attention focused like a spotlight. Sarah continued because she had started and could not stop. "Things are hard. I lost my job 8 months ago when the symphony cut its budget, then the apartment when I could not make rent. We have been staying with friends, moving around." She paused, swallowing hard. "The worst part is seeing my daughter hungry, and not having anything to put on the table." She did not cry, but her voice trembled at the end. Lily had stopped eating. She was watching her mother with an expression too old for her 6 years, an understanding that no child should have to carry. She reached out and put her small hand on Sarah's, her tiny fingers warm and soft. "It is okay, Mama." Sarah squeezed her hand back, feeling tears burn behind her eyes. Grant was silent. He did not offer empty words of comfort. He did not say everything would get better. He did not make promises he could not keep. But something changed in his expression, something subtle but real, as if her honesty had crossed a barrier he did not know existed. "I understand," he said finally. It was not much, 2 words, but the tone was different, softer, more present, more human. They finished the meal in silence. It was not a heavy silence. It was the kind of silence that exists when people have said what needed to be said and do not need to fill the air with empty noise. When the check came, Grant paid without looking at the amount. Sarah noticed him leave a tip that was probably more than her entire monthly budget used to be. She stood up. Lily slid off her chair, her stomach full for the first time in days. Sarah reached for the violin case, its familiar weight settling onto her shoulder. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion, "for the food, for listening, for treating us like people." Grant stood up too. He was taller than she had realized, his presence larger somehow, now that he was on his feet. His eyes were level with hers. "You played beautifully," he said. That was more than enough payment for any meal. Sarah did not know what else to say. She just nodded. A small, almost timid gesture. Grant reached into his jacket pocket. He took out a pen and a small leather notebook. He wrote something down in neat, careful handwriting, tore out the page, and held it out to her. Sarah took it. It was an address. "I run an investment firm downtown," Grant said. "I work from home most days. The house is large and I travel often. I need someone to help keep things organized, cleaning, some basic household management." He paused, seeming to consider his next words carefully. "I do not usually do this. I do not invite strangers into my home, but I have a friend who runs a background check service. Give me your full name and I can have the results by tomorrow morning. If everything checks out you can start this week." Sarah felt her face flush. A background check. Of course, he was rich and careful, and she was a stranger who had just let her daughter wander into his dinner. "Sarah Marie Thompson," she said. "I have nothing to hide." Grant wrote it down. "Good. If the check comes back clean, come to this address tomorrow, 9 in the morning. We can discuss the details then." He paused, his dark eyes meeting hers. "You can bring your daughter. I have a spare room she can use while you work." Sarah stared at the paper, at the neat handwriting, at the address she did not recognize. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you doing this?" Grant looked at her, then at Lily, then back at her. "Because you offered to play for your supper," he said. "That was brave. Not many people would do that. And because your daughter should not have to be hungry. No child should." He did not say anything else. He just stood there, waiting for her answer with the patience of a man who had all the time in the world. Sarah looked at the paper, at the address, at the chance she was being offered. She thought about all the doors that had closed today, all the polite rejections, all the ways people had looked through her like she did not exist, like she was a ghost haunting their comfortable lives. And here was this stranger, this man who had no reason to help her, offering her something she desperately needed. "I will be there," she said. Grant nodded. "Tomorrow, 9 in the morning, we can discuss the details then." He turned and walked away, into the restaurant, through the doors, gone. Sarah stood there on the terrace, the paper clutched in her hand like a lifeline. Lily tugged at her dress. "Mama, can we go home now? I am tired." "Yes, sweetie, we can go home." They walked away from the restaurant, down the sidewalk, into the gathering dark. The city lights were coming on, turning the streets into rivers of gold and shadow. Lily held her hand tightly. Her stomach was full for the first time in days. Her steps were lighter than they had been all afternoon. "He was nice, Mama, he was. Are we going to see him again?" Sarah looked at the paper in her hand, at the address written in careful letters, at the chance she had been given. "Yes," she said, "I think we are." They walked on. The city was loud around them, cars and buses and people hurrying home to their families, their dinners, their comfortable lives. But Sarah heard none of it. She could only think about the man who had listened to her play, who had fed her daughter without judgment, who had offered her a chance when no one else would. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know if this was real or if it would disappear like every other good thing in her life. But for the first time in a long time, she had hope, and hope was enough to keep walking. You're listening to an original story from the official Shiny Stories channel. The alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning. Sarah reached for it in the dark, silencing it before the sound could wake Lily. The girl was still asleep beside her on the narrow couch, her thick curly hair spread across the pillow like a dark cloud, her breathing slow and even, her small face peaceful in a way it rarely was during waking hours. They were staying with Margaret this week. Margaret was a friend from the old days, from before Sarah lost everything, from the time when she still had a career and an apartment and a future. Margaret had a small one-bedroom apartment, with a pull-out couch, and a heart big enough to share both. Sarah got dressed in the dark, moving quietly so as not to disturb anyone. Her best clothes, which were not very good anymore. A simple blouse that was clean but faded from too many washings. Dark pants that were starting to wear at the knees. Her most comfortable shoes, which meant her only shoes that did not have holes in the soles. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Her dark skin looked tired, ashy from stress and lack of proper nutrition. Her natural hair was pulled back in a bun, a few coils escaping to frame her face. Her cheeks were thinner than they used to be. There were circles under her eyes that had not been there a year ago, shadows that spoke of too many sleepless nights spent worrying about tomorrow. But her eyes were still bright. She had not lost that yet. She had not lost herself. She went back to the living room, and gently shook Lily awake. "Sweetie, time to get up." Lily opened her eyes slowly, rubbed her face with her small hands, yawned. "Is it time to go see the nice man?" Sarah smiled. She had not told Lily much, had not wanted to get her hopes up, but children had a way of knowing things. "Yes, sweetie, it is time." They left before 7. The streets were quiet, the city still mostly sleeping. The air was cool with the memory of night, and the sky was just beginning to lighten in the east. Sarah held Lily's hand as they walked to the bus stop, the violin case heavy on her shoulder. She did not know why she brought the violin. She was not going to play. She was going to discuss a job, but something made her take it anyway. Maybe because it was the only thing that still felt like herself. Maybe because leaving it behind felt like leaving a piece of her soul. The bus ride took 45 minutes. They transferred once at the downtown station, then again near the park. The neighborhood changed as they went, like turning pages in a book. The buildings got nicer. The streets got cleaner. The cars parked along the curb got more expensive. Sarah watched through the window as the city transformed around her. She felt like she was traveling to another world, a world where people did not worry about where their next meal would come from, where children did not go hungry, where life was something to be enjoyed rather than survived. They got off at the stop Grant had described, The house was 3 blocks away, down a tree-lined street where the sidewalks were clean and the gardens were tended. Sarah found it easily. It was beautiful, not flashy, not ostentatious, just beautiful in a quiet, understated way. 2 stories, with large windows that caught the morning light, a small front porch with a wooden swing that looked like it had never been used, a garden that was neat but not fussy, with flowers blooming in careful rows. Sarah stood on the sidewalk for a moment, just looking, just breathing, just trying to believe this was real. "Is this where the nice man lives?" Lily asked. "I think so. It is pretty. It is." Sarah took a deep breath. She squeezed Lily's hand. "Here we go." They walked up the path, climbed the porch steps. Sarah raised her hand and rang the doorbell, hearing it chime somewhere deep inside the house. The door opened almost immediately. Grant was standing there in jeans and a casual shirt, looking different without the suit, younger somehow, more relaxed, but also more guarded, as if the daylight had reminded him to put his walls back up. "Good morning," he said. His tone was polite, but businesslike. "Good morning." He stepped back and gestured for them to enter. The inside of the house was clean but empty somehow. Simple furniture arranged with precision, few decorations on the walls, everything very organized, very neat, but without warmth. It was the house of someone who lived alone, and had lived alone for a long time. The house of someone who had stopped expecting visitors. Grant led them to the living room. He offered water. Sarah accepted. Lily drank in silence, her bright eyes taking in everything around her with childlike curiosity. "I will be direct," Grant said, sitting in an armchair across from them. His posture was formal, his hands resting on his knees. "I need someone to help with the house twice a week, maybe 3 times, depending on how things go. Cleaning, basic organization, nothing complicated." Sarah nodded. She was listening carefully, trying not to let her hope show too much. "The pay is fair," Grant continued. He named a figure that made Sarah's heart skip. "But I want to be clear about something. This is a professional arrangement. I value my privacy and my routine. I work from home most days, running my firm remotely. I expect the work to be done efficiently and quietly." "I understand," Sarah said. Grant looked at Lily, who was swinging her legs on the couch. "Your daughter can come. There is a room down the hall she can use, but she needs to stay there while you work. I am not good with children. I do not know how to talk to them, or what they need." He paused, something flickering in his eyes. "I would prefer to keep things simple." Sarah felt a small sting at his words, but she understood. He was setting boundaries. He was protecting himself. She recognized the signs, because she had done the same thing herself. "That is fine," she said. "Lily is good at entertaining herself. She draws." Grant nodded. "Would you like to see the house, so you can decide if this works for you?" "Yes, I would like that." He showed her around, the bedrooms with their perfectly made beds, the bathrooms with their gleaming fixtures, the kitchen with its empty counters and professional-grade appliances that looked barely used. His office on the 2nd floor, where 3 computer monitors glowed with financial charts and data streams. "I manage investments," he explained briefly, "mostly from here. I go into the city office maybe once a week." Sarah nodded, understanding now the source of his wealth and his solitude. A man who spent his days watching numbers move across screens. A man who had built his life around control and predictability. When the tour was finished, Grant led Lily to the extra room. It was small but sunny, with a window that looked out over the backyard where birds were singing in the trees. There was a low table, some old pillows on the floor, a shelf of books that looked like they had not been touched in years. "You can stay here while your mom works," Grant told Lily. His voice was stiff, uncertain. "Is that okay?" Lily looked around, her eyes widening as they landed on a stack of blank paper and a cup of old crayons. "Can I draw?" "You can draw as much as you want." Lily's face lit up like the sun breaking through clouds. She ran to the table and sat down, already reaching for the crayons. Grant stepped back quickly, as if her enthusiasm made him uncomfortable. He looked at Sarah. "She will be fine here," he said.
Let me know if you have questions about the work." Then he disappeared upstairs to his office, closing the door behind him. Sarah stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. The man who had been so kind at the restaurant had retreated behind a wall of professionalism. He was not cruel, he was not unkind, he was just distant, but she understood. She understood. She understood walls. She understood the need to protect yourself from hoping too much. She went to work. She cleaned the kitchen first, scrubbing the counters until they shone, washing dishes that were already clean, organizing cabinets that were already organized, then the bathrooms, making the fixtures sparkle, then the living room, dusting shelves and vacuuming carpets and polishing the hardwood floors, until she could see her reflection. She worked methodically, thoroughly, the way she had learned from her mother and her grandmother before that. She worked like someone who had something to prove, not to Grant, but to herself. Grant stayed in his office upstairs. He did not hover. He did not check on her every 5 minutes. He did not watch her like he was waiting for her to steal something, or break something, or do something wrong. He just stayed away. Sarah did not know whether to feel grateful or sad about that. She finished in the early afternoon. The house was spotless, every surface clean, every window clear, every floor swept and mopped and shining. She knocked on Grant's office door. "I am finished." Grant looked up from his computer. He stood and followed her through the house, checking each room with careful attention. He did not say much, just nodded as he went, his expression unreadable. When the tour was done, he took out his wallet and handed her several bills. Sarah counted them. Her hands were trembling slightly. It was exactly the amount he had promised. Fair, as he had said. More than fair. "Thank you," she said. "Tuesday," Grant replied. "Same time. If that works for you." "Tuesday works." She went to get Lily from the extra room. The girl had drawn 6 pictures, flowers and cats and houses with chimneys. She held them up proudly, her face beaming. "Look, Mama, I made so many. They are beautiful, sweetie. Can I show the nice man?" Sarah hesitated. She remembered Grant's words. "I am not good with children. I would prefer to keep things simple." "Maybe another time," she said. "He is busy with work right now." Lily's face fell slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Okay, can I bring them home?" "Of course you can." They gathered their things. Sarah walked to the front door. Grant was standing in the hallway, keeping his distance. "Thank you," she said, "for the opportunity." Grant nodded. "You did good work." That was it. No warmth, no small talk, just a business transaction completed. Sarah and Lily walked out into the afternoon sun. The door closed behind them. On the bus ride home, Lily fell asleep against her shoulder, her drawings clutched in her small hands. Sarah looked out the window at the city passing by, at the people going about their lives, at the world that suddenly seemed a little less hostile. She had a job. She had money in her pocket. She had hope, but she also had questions about the man who had been so kind one night and so distant the next, about the walls he had built around himself, about what had happened in his life to make him prefer numbers on a screen to people in the world. She did not have answers. Not yet, but she had time, and time, she was learning, could change everything. This story is produced by the official channel, Shiny Stories. The weeks passed slowly at first. Sarah came to Grant's house every Tuesday and Thursday, arriving promptly at 9 in the morning and leaving by 4 in the afternoon. Lily always came with her, settling into the extra room like it was her own private corner of the world. The routine became familiar, predictable. Sarah would clean while Lily drew. Grant would work in his office, appearing only occasionally to get water or coffee. They exchanged polite greetings, professional nods, nothing more. Grant kept his distance. He was courteous but cold, friendly but formal. He paid her on time, thanked her for her work, and retreated back to his screens and his silence. Sarah understood. She did not push, but Lily was different. Children do not understand walls. They do not see barriers the way adults do. They see possibilities. It started small. A drawing left on the kitchen counter. A hello called out when she heard footsteps on the stairs. A question asked through the office door. "Do you like butterflies, Mr. Grant?" Grant would pause, uncertain. He would answer briefly, "Yes, I suppose I do," and then retreat. But Lily persisted. She drew him pictures, not for herself, for him. A house with big windows, a garden with flowers, a man sitting at a desk with a smile on his face. She left them where he would find them, on the kitchen table, by the coffee maker, once daringly tucked under his office door. Grant did not know what to do with them. The first few, he set aside without comment, but Sarah noticed that he did not throw them away. They accumulated in a small pile on the corner of his desk. One Thursday, about 3 weeks in, Sarah was cleaning the living room when she heard something unexpected. Voices. She stopped what she was doing and listened. It was coming from the extra room. Lily's voice, high and clear, and another voice, lower, uncertain. Grant. Sarah crept closer. She stood in the hallway, just out of sight, and listened.
"This is a garden," Lily was saying. "It has red and yellow roses, and this little cat here lives in the garden. He is friends with the flowers." Friends with the flowers, yes, because the flowers get lonely when no one is looking at them, so the cat keeps them company. A pause. Then Grant's voice, softer than Sarah had ever heard it. "That is very thoughtful. Do flowers get lonely? Everything gets lonely." Lily said matter-of-factly, "Even grown-ups, even houses. That is why it is important to have friends." Sarah felt her throat tighten. She peeked around the corner. Grant was sitting on the floor, not in a chair, on the floor cross-legged, his back against the wall. Lily was beside him, showing him her sketchbook. He looked uncomfortable, out of place, like a man who had forgotten how to sit without a desk in front of him. But he was there. He was listening. "This one is my mom," Lily said, turning the page. "See, she has her violin. She is the best violin player in the whole world." Grant looked at the drawing. It was Sarah with her hair down, a blue dress, and a big smile. "She is very pretty," Grant said. "I know." Lily nodded. "She does not smile like that very much anymore though. She used to. Before we lost our house." Grant was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I am sorry that happened to you. It is okay." Lily shrugged with the resilience of childhood. "We found you instead." Grant did not respond to that. Sarah saw something flicker across his face. Something that looked almost like fear. "I should get back to work," he said, standing up abruptly. "You can keep drawing." He walked out of the room. He passed Sarah in the hallway. Their eyes met for just a moment. Then he was gone, up the stairs, the office door closing behind him. Sarah stood there, her heart pounding. She did not know what to feel. The moment had been so brief, so fragile, like a flower pushing through concrete, only to be stepped on. But it had happened. Grant had sat on the floor with a 6-year-old girl and looked at her drawings and called her mother pretty. It was not much, but it was something. That evening after Sarah and Lily had left, Grant sat in his office staring at the wall. The stack of drawings was in front of him. Houses and gardens and flowers and cats. A woman with a violin. A man at a desk. "We found you instead." The words echoed in his mind. They terrified him. What had he done? He had offered a job to a stranger. A simple transaction, work for money, nothing more. But Lily did not see it that way. Lily saw something else. Lily saw possibility. Lily saw family, and that scared Grant more than anything had scared him in years. He picked up the drawing of himself, the one where he was smiling, the one where he looked happy. He did not recognize the man in that picture. He had not been that man in a very long time. Maybe ever. He thought about calling Sarah, about ending the arrangement, about protecting himself from whatever this was becoming. But he did not. He set the drawing down and went back to his numbers, his screens, his safe and predictable world. But the drawing stayed on his desk, and something inside him, something small and fragile, began to crack. But the next morning, the crack sealed itself shut. Grant woke up with a familiar tightness in his chest. The feeling he always got when things became too real, too close. He sent Sarah a text before she arrived. Something came up with work. "Please use the spare key under the mat. I will be in meetings all day." It was a lie. He had no meetings. He spent the day in his office with the door locked, listening to their footsteps downstairs, telling himself this was better, safer. That distance was the only thing that had ever protected him. He did this 3 more times over the next month, finding excuses to be gone when they arrived, leaving money on the counter instead of handing it to Sarah directly. building back the walls that Lily's drawings kept trying to tear down. Sarah noticed, of course she noticed, but she did not say anything. She just kept coming, kept working, kept leaving Lily's drawings where he would find them, and slowly, painfully, Grant stopped running. You're listening to an original story from the official Shiny Stories channel. The first time Grant made a mistake, it was a Thursday afternoon. Sarah was cleaning the kitchen when she heard Lily crying. Not the dramatic crying of a child who wants attention. Real crying, the kind that comes from deep inside. She ran to the extra room. Lily was sitting on the floor, tears streaming down her face. Her sketchbook was in her lap, but she was not drawing. She was staring at something on the page. Grant was standing in the doorway, frozen. His face was pale. What happened? Sarah demanded. I did not mean to, Grant said. His voice was tight. I just said he ran away. Lily sobbed. He ran away and he never came back. Sarah looked at the drawing. It was a family, a mother, a daughter, and a father, but the father figure was scribbled out with black crayon. She looked at Grant. What did you say? I asked her about the drawing. She said it was her daddy. I asked where he was. She said she did not know. And I said, Grant's voice caught. I said that maybe he had a reason, that maybe he would come back someday. Sarah closed her eyes. She felt the familiar pain twist in her chest. The pain she had spent years trying to bury. He is not coming back. Lily wailed. Mama said he does not want us. She said he left because he did not want to be a daddy. Grant looked stricken. I did not know. I thought maybe you should not have asked, Sarah said. Her voice was sharper than she intended. Some questions are not yours to ask. Grant flinched. I apologize. I was trying to. She did not let him finish. She gathered Lily in her arms, holding her close, murmuring soft words into her hair. It is okay, baby. It is okay. I am here. I am not going anywhere. Grant stood there, useless, watching. He did not know what to do. He did not know how to fix this. He had spent his whole life solving problems with logic and money and distance, but there was no logic for a crying child. No money that could heal this wound. No distance that could undo his mistake. I am sorry, he said again. Sarah looked at him over Lily's head. Her eyes were hard. Just go, she said. Please. Grant went. He climbed the stairs to his office. He closed the door. He sat at his desk and stared at nothing. He had made a mistake. A stupid, thoughtless mistake. He had asked a question that was not his to ask, about a wound that was not his to understand. And now Lily was crying, and Sarah was angry, and the fragile thing that had been building between them was crumbling. He thought about his own father. Distant, cold, a man who showed love through money and obligation, never through presence or warmth. Grant had grown up believing that was normal, that love was something you provided, not something you gave. But watching Lily cry, he understood something he had never understood before. Love was not about providing, it was about showing up. It was about being there. It was about sitting on the floor and looking at drawings and asking the right questions instead of the wrong ones. And he had failed. He did not know how to fix it. He did not know if it could be fixed. But for the first time in his life he wanted to try. An hour later there was a knock on his office door. He opened it. Sarah was standing there, her face tired but calmer. She fell asleep. Sarah said, she will be okay. She just needs time. I am sorry, Grant said again. I should not have. I know. Sarah sighed. You did not know. How could you? I never told you. She leaned against the door frame, her arms crossed. Her father left when she was 2, Sarah said quietly. He was not ready to be a parent. He said he needed space, time to figure things out. He never came back. He never called. He never wrote. He just vanished. Grant listened in silence. She does not remember him, Sarah continued. But she knows he left. She knows he chose not to be in her life. And sometimes she wonders if it was her fault, if she did something wrong. It was not her fault. I know that. You know that. But she is 6. She does not understand. Sarah's voice cracked. And every time someone brings him up, every time someone asks where her daddy is, it tears open the wound all over again. Grant felt something heavy settle in his chest. Guilt, regret, sadness. I am sorry, he said. I did not think. No, Sarah said. You did not. But neither did I. I should have told you. I should have prepared you. This is my fault too. They stood there in silence for a moment. I do not know how to do this, Grant admitted. I do not know how to be around a child. I say the wrong things, I ask the wrong questions. I spent my whole life avoiding situations like this because I knew I would mess them up. Sarah looked at him, really looked. You are not wrong, she said. You are just learning. We all make mistakes. What matters is what you do next. What should I do next? Sarah thought for a moment. Talk to her, she said. Not about her father, about something else, something safe. Ask her about her drawings. Ask her about her favorite color. Just be there. I do not know how. Neither did I, Sarah said. But I learned, and you can too, if you want to. Grant looked at her tired face, at her strong eyes, at the woman who had played a violin for her daughter's supper and still had the courage to hope. I want to, he said. Then that is enough, for now. She turned and walked back downstairs. Grant stood in the doorway for a long time, thinking about what she had said. What matters is what you do next. He did not know what to do next, but he knew he would figure it out, because for the first time in his life, he wanted to be someone who tried. Original audio by Shiny Stories. The apology came 2 days later. Grant had thought about it carefully. He had researched online, feeling foolish, reading articles about how to apologize to children. He had even driven to a bookstore and stood in the children's section for 20 minutes trying to find something appropriate. In the end he chose a sketchbook, not fancy, just a simple one with a cover that had a butterfly on it, and a note, handwritten, because he did not know what else to do. When Sarah and Lily arrived on Tuesday, Grant was waiting in the hallway. He had not done that before. Usually he stayed in his office until they were settled. Lily saw him and stopped. Her eyes were wary. She remembered Grant knelt down, lowering himself to her level. It was not easy. His knees protested. His body was not used to this position. Lily, he said, I want to apologize to you. Lily said nothing. She clutched her mother's hand tighter. I asked you a question on Thursday that I should not have asked, Grant continued. I made you sad. I did not mean to, but that does not matter. What matters is that I hurt you, and I am sorry. Lily's lower lip trembled. Grant held out the sketchbook. I got this for you. It has a butterfly on it. I remembered you said you like butterflies. Lily looked at the sketchbook, then at Grant, then at her mother. Sarah nodded gently. Slowly, Lily reached out and took the sketchbook. She held it against her chest. I forgive you, she said quietly. But do not ask about my daddy again. I will not, Grant promised. I will never bring it up again, and if you ever want to talk about it you can tell me, but I will not ask. Lily nodded, then unexpectedly she stepped forward and hugged him. Grant froze. His hands hovered in the air, not knowing where to land. He looked at Sarah, panic in his eyes. Sarah smiled slightly and nodded. Slowly, carefully, Grant put his arms around Lily. It was awkward, stiff. He did not know how to hold a child, but he tried. Thank you for the butterfly book, Lily said, her voice muffled against his shoulder. You are welcome, Grant managed. Lily pulled back. She looked at him with those bright eyes and something had shifted. You can come see my drawings later if you want, she said, but only if you want to. Grant nodded. I would like that. Lily skipped off to the extra room, the new sketchbook clutched to her chest. Sarah stood there, watching Grant slowly rise to his feet. His face was flushed. His hands were shaking slightly. That was good, she said. I did not know what I was doing. No one does. That is what parenting is. I am not her parent, no, but you are something. Sarah paused, and whatever that something is, it matters to her. Grant did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. But later that afternoon, he went to the extra room. He sat on the floor. He looked at Lily's drawings. And this time, he only asked about the butterflies. Thanks for listening on the official Shiny Stories channel. Spring melted into summer, and something changed in the house. It was not dramatic. There were no grand gestures, no sudden revelations. It was gradual, like the slow turning of seasons. Grant started coming downstairs more often. Not every day, not even most days, but sometimes. He would make coffee in the kitchen while Sarah cleaned. He would pause by the extra room and watch Lily draw. He would ask small questions about small things. What color is that? Purple, but it is a special purple, like the sky when the sun is going down. That is called violet. Violet.
Lily tested the word. I like that. Violet. The conversations were brief, tentative. Two people learning a new language, one word at a time. Sarah noticed the changes. She noticed how Grant remembered things Lily told him, how he asked follow-up questions, how he started looking at the drawings with genuine interest instead of polite confusion. She also noticed how he kept his distance from her. He was friendly, professional, but there was a wall between them, invisible but present. Every time they got close to a real conversation, he would find an excuse to retreat. Sarah understood. She had walls of her own, but she also saw the cracks forming in his. One afternoon in late June, Sarah found a check on the kitchen counter. It was made out to her for an amount that made her heart stop. "This is too much," she said when Grant came downstairs, holding up the check. "It is fair," he said. "You have been doing more than I asked. But this is not payment for work. This is charity." Grant shook his head. "No, it is fair payment for fair work. You cleaned my house, you organized my kitchen, you sat with me when I had the flu last month, and made sure I ate something. That is work." He paused. "There is a difference between accepting help you did not earn and accepting payment for value you provided." Sarah stared at the check. Her pride still screamed at her to refuse, but she heard the logic in his words. She had worked for this. She had earned it. This was not the same as a stranger handing her money out of pity. "I have been teaching violin lessons," she said suddenly. Grant raised an eyebrow. "What? On the weekends? At the community center? They do not pay much, but it is something. I have 4 students now." She paused, her chin lifting slightly. "I wanted you to know, I am not just waiting to be saved. I am building something too. When I leave here someday it will be because I can stand on my own feet, not because I need to." Grant nodded slowly. "I never thought otherwise. That is why I respect you." "I never thought you were waiting," Grant said. "That is not who you are. How would you know who I am?" Grant was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I know that you played violin in a restaurant to feed your daughter. I know that you refused charity from a stranger. I know that you show up here every week and work harder than anyone I have ever hired. I know that you have not complained once about anything, even when you had every right to." He paused. "I know who you are, Sarah. I may not know the details, but I know the truth." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For seeing me." Grant nodded. Then he turned and went back upstairs. But something had shifted between them. Another wall, crumbling. You're listening to an original story from the official Shiny Stories channel. The summer brought heat and thunderstorms, and one particularly bad storm changed everything. Sarah and Lily had finished for the day, and were 3 blocks from the bus stop when the sky opened up. The rain came down so hard they could barely see, so fast they were soaked in seconds. They ran back to Grant's house, pounding on the door, shivering and desperate. Grant opened the door and his face went pale. "Get inside," he said, pulling them in. Now, he found towels, dry clothes, everything they needed. He made tea. He sat with Lily while she warmed up, asking about her drawings, keeping her calm while the thunder crashed outside. And when the storm finally passed and it was time to drive them home, he did not retreat to his office. He sat with them in the living room. He ate the simple dinner Sarah made from what was in his kitchen. He listened to Lily talk about her drawings and her school and her dreams. It was the first time they had all been together, truly together, without the barrier of work between them. "This is nice," Lily said sleepily, curled up on the couch. "What is nice?" Grant asked. "Being together, like a family." The word hung in the air. Grant looked at Sarah. Sarah looked at him. Neither of them said anything, but they did not look away either. This story is produced by the official channel Shiny Stories. The following Tuesday, Grant met Sarah at the door with something unexpected. Nervousness. "Can we talk?" he asked. "After you finish." Sarah nodded, her heart pounding. All afternoon she worked and wondered, what did he want to say? Was he ending the arrangement? Had something gone wrong? When she finished, Lily was asleep in the extra room. Sarah found Grant on the back porch, staring at the garden. She sat down beside him. "I have been thinking," Grant said, "about my life, about how I got here." Sarah waited. "I have always been alone, even as a child. I preferred books to people, silence to noise. My parents never understood me." He told her about his childhood, about learning to be comfortable with solitude, about building walls that kept people out, and he told her about fear. When you and Lily appeared at that restaurant, something changed. I did not want it to. I tried to keep my distance, but you kept coming back, and I realized I was not as happy alone as I thought. Sarah felt her heart tighten. I am scared, Grant admitted. I do not know how to be what you need, what she needs. I make mistakes. I say the wrong things. I have spent my whole life avoiding this because I knew I would fail. Everyone fails, Sarah said softly. That is not the question. What is the question? Whether you keep trying. Grant was silent for a long moment. I want to try, he said finally. I do not know how. I do not know if I can, but I want to. Sarah felt tears building. I am scared too, she whispered. Every time I have trusted, I have been hurt. Every time I have hoped, I have been disappointed. So what do we do? Sarah looked at him. At this man who had given her a job when no one else would, who had learned to sit on the floor with a 6-year-old, who had apologized for his mistakes and tried to do better. We try, she said, one day at a time. No promises, no expectations, just trying. Grant nodded. I can do that. They sat there in silence, watching the sun set over the garden. It was not a declaration of love, it was not a happy ending, it was a beginning, and sometimes beginnings are enough. You're listening to an original story from the official Shiny Stories channel. 2 years later the house was unrecognizable. Lily's drawings covered every wall. The refrigerator was a gallery of butterflies and flowers and families holding hands. The extra room had become a proper studio with an easel and paints and canvases of every size. Sarah had built her violin teaching into a real business. She had 12 regular students now, and a waiting list. She had her own apartment, paid for with her own money, close enough to Grant's house that Lily could walk there after school. They were not living together. Not yet. They were taking it slow, building something real, brick by brick. Grant had learned to sit on the floor. He had learned to ask the right questions. He had learned that love was not about providing, but about showing up. He still made mistakes. He still said the wrong things sometimes. Just last month, he had accidentally told Lily that her drawing of a horse looked like a dog, and she had not spoken to him for 3 days, but he apologized. He learned. He tried again. That was what mattered. On this particular Sunday morning, the 3 of them were in the kitchen making pancakes. Grant was attempting to flip one, and failing spectacularly. Lily was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Sarah was watching them both, her heart so full it hurt. Daddy, you are doing it wrong, Lily said. The word still made Grant's heart skip. She had started calling him that 6 months ago, tentatively at first, then more confidently as he proved he was not going anywhere. I know I am doing it wrong, Grant said. That is why I need your help. Okay, first you have to wait until you see bubbles. Bubbles. Got it. They made pancakes together. They ate them together. They cleaned up together. It was ordinary, simple, perfect. Later, after Lily had gone to the studio to draw, Grant and Sarah sat on the back porch. The same porch where they had first talked about trying. The same porch where their story had begun. I have been thinking, Grant said. That is usually dangerous, Sarah replied, smiling. I have been thinking that this trying thing is working. You think so? I know so. Grant paused. I think maybe it is time to stop trying and start being. Being what? Being a family. For real. No more separate apartments. No more taking it slow. Just us. Together. Sarah's breath caught. Is that a proposal? It is whatever you want it to be. Sarah looked at him. At this man who had changed so much and still had so far to go. At this man who had learned to love a little girl who was not his. At this man who had opened his heart when he was terrified to. Yes, she said. Yes, what? Yes to everything. Yes to being a family. Yes to whatever comes next. Grant smiled. That rare, real smile that she had learned to treasure. He pulled her into his arms and held her. Inside the house, Lily was drawing. The picture showed 3 people standing in front of a house. A man, a woman, and a little girl. At the bottom in careful handwriting, my real family. She would show them later. For now she just drew. And in the garden the flowers bloomed, And in the kitchen the pancake batter dried on the counter, and on the porch 2 people who had been alone for so long finally found home. It had started with a hungry child and a violin and a stranger who said yes when he could have said no. It had taken time, patience, mistakes and forgiveness and the courage to keep trying, but they had made it. And this time it was real. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. Leave a like because it helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. And remember, kindness costs nothing but can change everything. See you in the next one.
Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.